knowing all that, I definitely didn't want to go back to Poland because I'll never get out.
Okay.
So then the second choice was that I pay my way back to Canada. And he said that he'll give me like a one entry visa,
Yeah.
visitor's visa, but I'm back into the same kind of predicament, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he says, tell them to deport you. So what's that mean? That you're going to go free of charge. I don't have to pay for my ticket.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to look after you over there. So I thought, sounds like a plan. Going back to where I wanted to go, I didn't have to pay for it. So what's wrong with that?
You got deported to Canada.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Welcome back to another episode of Immigrants of Canada. My name is Suzette Smith, and I'm here with Sylvia Austin. Welcome to the show, Sylvia.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here today. It's the 1970s, and you're in Poland right now. Can you describe the scene?
So in 70s, I was a teenager. So 1976, I started high school, equivalent of high school of Canadian. And I moved from a small town, very small town, surrounded by little villages, to a big city to go to school with advanced subject in biology, chemistry, and physics. And I was going to study this for 4 years.
Okay.
So prior to leaving, so I was like 16 then.
All right.
And prior to moving to Wrocław, that's the city, I lived pretty easy life. My dad was a vet, and he was a large animal vet. At that time, Poland was still under communist regime, which was imposed after the Second War.
Okay.
And everything was government owned. So my dad worked for government. There was a lot of government farms around, and the people who farmed very uniquely comparing to right now. They didn't specialize themselves in anything. They had everything, a little bit of everything, because that was their livelihood.
Okay.
So that made my father a super important person. Next to priest, he was the second in line, because if the cow died, the people didn't have food to eat, the milk to drink, and all this. So even a medical doctor was kind of behind this. So as a daughter of a vet, I had a pretty comfortable life, I thought, pre-shelter. You know, I was living there. We didn't travel a lot because there was not, it wasn't a time when we did a lot of traveling. And so I had lots of friends, you know, family was visiting, the social aspect, as far like my parents never had a friend coming over play cards or anything like this, but it was good. So then I went to school. It was a shock, because not only I went to a big city, but I went to I live on my own. My parents rented me a room.
Okay.
And I had to look after myself. So at 16, it was like, wow.
Freedom.
It was kind of overwhelming, exciting at the same time. So, and scary at times.
Yeah.
Right? But the first months of that year, it was where my eyes kind of opened to that there's a different world out there than what I'm accustomed to. And that was not only a fact of the life in a big city, but I went to prestige school. it was a government school, but still prestige. And a lot of my friends, my students, were kids of pretty rich people.
Right.
So Poland was very poor at that time. No foreign investments were allowed in Poland, and very few people travel outside. So everything what I was accustomed to was made in Poland.
Okay.
So all of a sudden and then I saw these girls wearing Levi's and wearing Wranglers, and I said, like, wow, I want some of that too. So I went to look for it and I couldn't find it. And then through conversations, I find out that one girl had a father for a doctor who was working in Germany, and he was bringing her Levi's from there and stuff like that, right?
Right.
I asked my dad, and my dad thought I lost my mind, that I wanted to get a pair of jeans which cost like 3 times or better than the regular pair of jeans.
Right.
So, just stuff like that. I befriended a girl, and her father was the chief of police for the whole couple million, people city.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they live very well. So, it kind of made me wonder why. My dad was a very important person as far as I was concerned until now. So why my dad is not raking all these benefits like these people are? And then I find out that a lot of all these people are part of communist party.
Okay.
So this is where I find out from my dad that he, although he worked for government, he wasn't really agreeing with everything what they were doing. Therefore, he never joined them, and that limited him tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
So, he although he was important person, but he was just the important person to people's livelihood. He wasn't somebody who was important for on a bigger scale.
Right.
So the 4 years of high school was pretty trying at times. I got never really accepted into that environment
Mm-hmm.
because we in Poland at that time the different classes made still it was still very prominent around. So in little town where I live, I was a daughter of the vet, and it was good enough. I was somebody. When I moved to the city, I was a girl from a village, and I had to do a lot more than they did to be kind of accepted. And as I said, I somewhat found my way around, but never really got accepted, and I never really kept any contacts after I left high school. So it was kind of one of my parts of my life, and I thought that's good enough. So while I was in high school, very different than here, I had 14 subjects every semester. And for you to advance into next year, you needed to pass all the subjects.
So sorry, you said 14 subjects?
14 subjects.
Wow.
Yeah, that was, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So now we're talking 70s. We're not talking now, because if
Right.
somebody, like, I'm not really sure how it is right now, but it's a lot changed since then, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had 14 subjects, and I had like 4 languages, astronomy, geography, history, art, phys ed, music,
Yeah.
math, Polish language, literature, and I had advanced biology, chemistry, and physics. So like, it's kind of, when I came to Canada and I met my husband, who is a chemist. He
Yeah.
finished university. So he was then in a third year of university. So what he was studying in a third year university, I already studied in
Oh,
my But anyway, going back into my story, you needed to pass all the subjects to advance into next year. So
right.
my one of my subject was English.
Okay.
I had Latin, Polish, English, and Russian.
Wow.
And this is my kind of take on this whole situation, that the professor who I had for English didn't like me because I tended to hang around with boys. I
Oh,
had brothers, so it was easier for me to relate to them.
mhm.
And girls are so catty that I found, and being who I was, it was a lot easier to get into their the guys' environment, the circle than girls. But
Mhm.
that for old-fashioned professor, as she was a woman, she thought that this was so wrong, and I kind of felt that this the attitude towards me kind of reflected in how she marked my work.
Mhm.
I wasn't acing this by no means, but I certainly felt that I needed a passing grade.
Right.
Well, second year she was going to flunk me, and that mean that I was going to lose the whole year.
Mhm.
So I, with the help of my math professor, we convinced her to let me pass. My dad was furious that I don't that he's got some that I don't put more effort towards English and all this. So he decided that I would benefit if I had a pen pal,
Okay.
and to write with her. So this is where with the connection with Canada accounts, right?
Okay.
After the second year, my dad um, I cannot really remember who and exactly when, but he came to Canada for a visit, and
Oh,
he loved it here and wanted to stay. But my mom refused to come with the kids, and so he came back to Poland. And he often talked about Canada. So he met some people here, and he put me in contact with this girl. Well, that family came to Poland for just to see Poland. They had some relatives there,
mhm.
and they visited us as well. So I kind of knew her. So this is where I rode with her for 2 years after that. And then when I finished my high school, I didn't get into university. So my dad said, take a year off, go to work, and then try it again the following year. Bad idea. Idea. This is why I'm always was very much against. If you plan to go to study more, you do not take a year off.
You'll never go back, right?
I never did.
Yeah.
Opportunity comes around, like life goes on, right? So that summer I worked at the granary in local place, and that was only seasonal job. And
Mhm.
then I went to and work at the orchard. And while I was doing this, I met a guy, and my parents disapproved this because he was a farmer's son. So my mom was like all freaked out. That, oh, this is a farmer's son. You the daughter of the doctor. Blah blah blah. So,
Right.
so it was like a little bit of a conflict arose there for a while, and then the girl Lucille
Mhm.
said, "Well, if you're doing nothing, why don't you come to Canada for visit?" So I thought, wow, yeah, where's that Canada? I've never been on a plane. I kind of didn't even realize how far this is and all this stuff, right?
Across the ocean.
I know. Well, that's all. That's all I basically knew, right?
Yeah.
Well, I knew where it was. I knew where it was, but you
Right.
don't really realize the distances until you get in friggin' on a plane and you sit for
Yeah.
10 hours on it. wow, it's a lot longer than you thought, right?
Yep.
So anyway, so I asked my parents, and my dad thought, my mom said no, but dad said yes, and dad was a boss, so I said okay. So I got myself a passport. I got myself a visa to come to Canada, tourist visa for visitors, and in January 23rd of 2000 of 1981, I flew to Toronto, to Montreal. Uh,
Montreal. Okay.
Montreal, yeah. And Lucille came pick me up. Um, if I knew that she lived on the farm, I did not remember that. So she took me to a farm in the middle of nowhere. And I'm thinking, like, what in the heaven is that?
Yeah.
So even in a small town where I live in the city, not some like miles away from everything, right?
Right. So I just have a quick question. So was Lucille your age here or
No, she was older.
a bit older?
She was,
Okay.
I want to say she was in her 40s then,
Okay. Okay.
like late 30s, early 40s, somewhere around that.
All right.
And
Yeah.
she had three kids at home.
Okay.
So, and they had a chicken farm,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I stay with her for, for what that, I cannot remember how many days and all this. And her father took me to the some group of Polish people, right? So although the farm was isolated, not this, I right away saw that even a farmer, like the farmers I saw, did not live like they did.
Right. Yeah.
So she had a washing machine, she had a dryer, she had a dishwasher, she had a stove, and she had a microwave, and it was like color TV, and we still had the black and white TV then, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, so that was the first kind. I was like, wow. And then I went to this party, gathering, and they were all old guys. So that was her father. So he was in his 60s probably, and rest of them were at least that much, if not older. They all were veterans of Second War, and they were, they ended up in Canada one way or the other.
All right.
Um, so, but I was 19. I didn't care, and
Yeah.
I wanted to see life in here.
Yeah.
So I kind of started thinking, like, what am I going to do in here? This is 3 months going to kill me here. And lo and behold, like I always had the luck on my side. I kind of felt this guy walks in into this place, no shoes, like he took his shoes off and no socks, bare feet, which is like the rest of them are in ties, so
Yeah.
oh, right, they have shoes on and dress pants on and all this, right? And he just walks in like a farmer, and he was probably, I would say, in his late 40s, early 50s, so a lot older than me. And then I got introduced to him. That's all Polish people, right? So he said to me,
Okay.
"What the heck are you doing here? So you should, with this old folks in here, you should be out somewhere, learning about Canada somewhere else, not here." So I got two sons. I'll introduce you to. I get one of them to come pick you up, and they'll show you some places. So
Right.
and this is kind of how I started. So I went first for the first couple of weeks. I just went like day here, day there, and so I kind of start seeing the everyday life and liking more and more and more. Like what I saw.
Right.
Um,
And was this in Quebec then that you saw Canada or?
no, no, no. That was so. I arrived in Montreal, but they lived in Brighton, which is just outside of Belleville, so in Ontario.
Okay. All right.
So
So,
I moved more west
yeah.
from Montreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to like closer to Toronto after that, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
that was kind of heading that way. What I kind of set up for a little bit longer was Coburg,
Okay.
and that's where I met Chris a couple years later, and then we moved to Peterborough, then we went to Kingston, then we
Okay.
went but that was after that, right?
Right.
So So this is where I started to notice, because now the younger Polish people, some did speak Polish, some didn't. So
Mhm.
this is where my English needed to be was tested, and
Right.
like, it's kind of like somebody coming out of high school with French. I was taught British English, so when I said first time, "How do you do?" they start laughing, and I'm thinking like, "What's so funny?" So
Oh.
nobody talked like that. So I was always very outgoing, and I kind of made a decision then that if they know English well enough, and I'm trying using some words I know and kind of um, make a spin English sound of Polish word, it might just work.
Right.
So I'll get my points across, right?
Human
And
experimentation, right?
yeah. So then, and that is how it kind of started. Um, then I met this Polish family, and she was in a pickle because she had they were in a pickle because she had a nanny from Poland, and the lady's brother got hurt in Poland, so she very suddenly left. So she was looking for somebody to help her for a couple weeks until she finds somebody new. So he says, "What do you want? How do you want this?" And sure. So I went and and this is how I started in Coburg. So the girl I came to wasn't very impressed,
Mm-hmm.
Lucille,
All right.
because I kind of took off, and but she thought that I would stay for the 3 months and I'll go home. She kind of felt somewhat responsible for me, right?
I see. Yeah.
But I was 19. I wasn't gonna go home just because somebody said so.
You wanted to explore. You were
I
very
sure did.
adventurous.
I
Yeah.
sure did. So I extended with the help of this farmer's son, John.
Yeah.
He was a little bit older than me, maybe 5 years older than me. So he kind of became like my older brother, and there was never anything romantically involved going on with him. But he was just very helpful. Kind of directed me to places, and so I extended my visa for another 3 months, and then I decided. Then I started, kind of evaluate what am I going to do. Situation in Poland at that time went from bad to worse.
Oh,
There
okay.
was a solidarity movement. It was a independent trade movement started in August of 1979, so before I left.
Mhm.
But in 80s, kind of as I was here already, was getting worse and worse and worse. And by December of that year, Poland was under martial law for a while, right? So
Right.
my passport was only valid for a year, and then I had a tourist visa,
Okay.
which does not allow me to do anything as far as immigration.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I found this out. So this is where I kind of had to decide it. Like, am I going through this and staying here? And first, do I want to stay here? And if I do, what do I need to do? So this is where I start looking. And I kind of thought that there's a lot of opportunities. One of the first things what I noticed is nobody asked me who was my father.
Yeah. Okay.
They wanted to know who I was. Like, it
Mm.
was such a breath of fresh air for me,
Oh.
because when you meet in Poland somebody, they always say, "What your parents do?" Who
So why,
cares?
so why is that then? Why did people ask what your parents did?
Because your father's education kind of put you in a certain class.
Okay,
So
I
if
see.
your father was highly educated, then you were in the intelligence class. If your father was a farmer, then you were in a farmer's class. If your
I
father
see.
was a worker, then you were. So, and there were kind of um, uh, there's the
Levels, right?
levels of, yeah, the groups of. I'm sure they are everywhere, but you know I live in here almost 40 years. Will be actually next January.
Wow, 40 years. Wow.
40 years. And in this 40 years, I've never met with violence. I never met with a hater or with like anything bad. Like everybody embraced, everybody was always super helpful. And throughout my whole life in here,
Mhm.
there was always somebody who was willing to go out of the way to help me in what I was dealing with.
Right.
The latest one, like I live in Fort McMurray, and the latest one was help from this coordinator of the home care who,
Hmm.
who helped me with my. We brought my father-in-law from Ontario with dementia,
Okay.
and it takes time for the insurances, health insurances to change. And this girl moved heaven and earth to help me to get a proper care for him. So he stayed with us, and she didn't have to, but
Right.
something about her and I clicked that she was willing to go out of her way. And I often found somebody like that in my struggles, with some things. And it
Mm.
was the same during my immigration proceedings, because once I decided that I'm going to stay, then I started kind of um, do what I do the best. I look for information from other people, because where else are you going to find, right?
Right.
So somebody knows somebody, and
There was
somebody.
no Google at that time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I still find it's better to talk to people, because somebody knows somebody knows something, and put you in some directions, and then you get what you need, right?
Right.
Google helps definitely.
Yeah.
So I find out that I need to leave Canada
Hmm. Okay.
and come back as a landed immigrant, because I was here on a visitor's visa.
Right.
So when you're here on a visitor's visa, you are not allowed to apply for anything, even the political refugees,
Okay.
which I really didn't have a reason, as far as I kind of thought, right?
Hmm.
So I met through my contacts. I got the choice was left to go to United States
Okay.
and get a visa, go to United States and apply for landed immigrant to Canada from them. And they were saying it takes about 2 years to do that. Or I would go to Austria
Right.
in Europe, which they were they were dealing with Polish people, Polish immigrants, um, pretty quickly, like
Mhm.
between 3 to 6 months. So, friend of mine lent me money, and Austria was a country without visas. So all you had to do is just get yourself a ticket. And in July that year, I went to Austria, not
Okay.
knowing that because there were so many Polish people living in Poland, Austria started having these refugee camps in Austria, so full that they decided to close the borders that night at midnight for all the Polish people coming from other countries than Poland.
Right.
They the Austria needed to force other countries to deal with the refugees themselves, not just ship them like that, right?
Hmm.
So I arrived in Vienna, and I cannot get out.
So you're stuck on the plane?
Well, no, I was stuck at the airport.
Okay. Okay.
I left plane, and then I'm going through customs, and they said you can't. So, make a long story short, not knowing a lot of English, how I got to talk to Canadian consul in there, I don't know, and nobody understands. I guess when your life is kind of in your hands, you find the words.
Yeah.
I'm sure I had dictionaries, so must be something like this. But I asked him what to do. So he basically said, I have three choices: go back to Poland.
Right.
I really didn't want to, because by now, my parents were started getting contacted by the Polish police. That's who issues the passports.
Okay.
And they knew that I was supposed to be back after 3 months, and I'm not back. So, but my passport is still good, right? So they were starting already asking me, asking my parents why she's not back. So my parents said, "Oh, she's just visiting some more. She just learning more about country, and she's learning English."
Right.
So knowing all that, I definitely didn't want to go back to Poland because I'll never get out.
Okay.
So then the second choice was that I pay my way back to Canada, and he said that he'll give me like a one entry visa, visitor's visa, but I'm back into the same kind of predicament, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he says, tell them to deport you. So what's that mean? That you're gonna go free of charge? I don't have to pay for my ticket.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna look after you over there. So I thought, sounds like a plan. Going back to where I wanted to go, I didn't have to pay for it. So what's wrong with that?
You got deported to Canada.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I was treated no differently on the plane than any other passenger. So I kind of thought, okay, well, because deported kind of sounded like I was going to jail or something, right?
You're being kicked out or something, but you're getting treated.
Like, I think I looked in the dictionary and I translated somehow to myself, and I kind of like, holy crap, I'm going to be like, I'm going to have a record after this. But I was 19. I was kind of like, whatever.
It's that adventurous spirit you had.
Yeah, and I had no ties back in Poland. If I had like a serious boyfriend there, then maybe I would say, oh, screw that, I'm going to go back home. Or,
right.
Or maybe if I wasn't as adventurous, I had 4 years to living on my own, and deciding kind of when I got up, when I ate, and all, when I did study and all this stuff.
Right.
Then, maybe I would have think differently, but I thought, deport me then. So I got there. When I arrived, now I'm arriving in Toronto, and they asked for me to stay on the plane when the rest of the passengers left. And when I was allowed to leave, I noticed there was a guy, like some immigration officer dressed in a suit and tie and all this, and two policemen. Like, oh, now we're starting, right? So then one of the policemen was like my dad's age, and he kind of just up and he said, I don't think we need it here. So they left me with just this immigration guy. So he says, we're getting so late, so we're gonna just put you up in the hotel, and then tomorrow morning we'll talk what's next. So I said, oh, that's good. So I was so tired from this trip. I lay down and went to the room, and they said they're going to bring me something to eat. I passed out, so tired. And it wasn't until next morning when I woke up and I thought, like, holy crap, there's a bar in the window. There's no doors on this room. And my dinner was eaten by somebody. So this is where I learned that this is where the illegals are being kept until they are somehow located somewhere, right? So I don't know people's stories, freaked me out to no end. Now this was probably one of the scariest moments of all this. But again, like I was 19 and I already contacted the night before my friends, so they were coming to get me, so I wasn't worried. So that was how I guess it was treated kind of like jail, because they had to put is a bond called when you get somebody out of jail?
Oh, a bail. Yeah.
Bail, yeah.
Right.
So it was $1,000. So they pay for that, and they said, when everything is settled, you can pay us back. So, and I was to live with them. So
But still, like being in jail at a hotel is not so bad,
No,
right?
it wasn't. As I said, it was. I got a clean bed to sleep.
Yeah.
There was another girl in it, and I don't even remember what she looked like. I was just the fact that there was a bars and all this. Like I never knew anything like this existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we went to the hearing, I guess what you would call, and the only way for me to have a bail and be able to go with them was if I apply for political refugee.
Okay.
Okay, so we applied for political refugee. So
Mm-hmm.
I had this friend who was kind of helping me through all this. So we apply, we give a statement, but I was pretty sure that they will um, not allow me to. So this is where bureaucracy and the long time waiting, it really worked for me
Mm-hmm.
because they were not in a hurry to look after my papers. So
Right.
they shafted this paper somewhere. And in the meantime, this friend of mine, he was Polish guy married to the couple kind of befriended. So I'm still friends with them, right?
Yeah.
And so he said, you know, you should ask for your social insurance number so you can work.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, I couldn't work legally.
Right. Right.
So I called the girl who was had my case in Toronto, and she says, "No, you stay with them until this goes through." And I said, "Well, how long is that going to take?" She said, "Well, I don't know, months, years." So I said, "Well, these people can. I'm young. I'm able to like go and work in a restaurant or something, right?" So
Yeah.
she says, "No." Then I told Bob, and Bob said, "You know what? We're going to contact member of parliament." So we contacted the member of parliament in the area,
Okay.
and I told him the story, and he says, "Well, let me look into this." A couple of days later, his secretary called me and says, "Go to Toronto. Your social insurance number is waiting."
Incredible. Oh my gosh.
So this is what I'm saying. I always kind of found somebody who was willing to go out of the way to help
Yeah.
me with this. So
Wow.
now I can legally work. So it's good, right? So I got a job as a nanny,
Yeah.
and I'll start paying the unemployment, the CPPs, and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, so that was probably um, end of the summer of that year, and I met Chris the following year in May.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So
That's your husband.
that's my present husband, yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I met him, my papers were still not in order. So I still had no answer and all this. I was working in a restaurant by then, or shortly after that. I moved to Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
I met a friend there, a girl, and I live with them and her grandparents, and got a job in a restaurant. Kind of like you probably never heard because it doesn't exist anymore, but it's kind of a competition to Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Okay.
It's called Dixie Lee,
Oh, I've never
and
known. No.
yeah, and that restaurant was owned by English couple um, who immigrated from England about the same time as I did.
Okay.
So they give me a job, and he Jack the Jack and Dorothy. So these people are still very very strongly in my life. They're in the 80s now, late 80s. They live in Ontario, but he kind of took upon himself to help me out with some of the stuff. So he kind of took over from Bob now, helping me with all this. So we got a so now I know Chris. I know his parents, you know, and Chris is in love, and there's no he find. I guess I got a letter from the immigration that I have no political reasons to apply for political refugees, and I needed to come back for another hearing and we'll be discussing. So there was a couple of days in between, right? So now we're kind of talking. So Chris had a friend who was studying a law, and they find out something that the Canada signed an agreement with all the free countries that they will not send anybody back to the country behind Iron Curtain if they don't want to go there.
Okay.
So what that meant that if I don't want to go back to Poland and Canada doesn't want me, they need to find me a country who will take me, and I will agree with it. But what's wrong with that? So again, I didn't, like my adventures. So Chris says, wherever you go, I'm going. So we used to start with the map and say, okay, where are we gonna go if they don't? So it was kind of adventure. Like I never worried so much about what's gonna happen to me. Like
Really? So like throughout this whole process, you never really felt super anxious or super worried about what was going to happen. You were just like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, my mother always says that there was a gypsy must have dropped me off somewhere, because I was just such a wandering soul. Like always, like even my adult, I like moving. Like if I cannot, I've never ever lived as long as I have lived in Fort McMurray, and my husband didn't want to quit his job and move out of here with jobs, so we moved houses. So he's getting out of, let him move in a different area. So it's just this kind of gypsies, have this reputation for being kind of wanderers, right? So
free spirit. You have a free spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, went to the interview, and during the interview they said that they will, because I've been working for like 2 years now, paying for everything, and I have proven that I'm not a burden on a society.
Yeah.
So the officer in, I think we were in Peterborough then, in Ontario. So that's where this officer, immigration officer was. So he said he's going to make an exception, and he's going to let me apply for landed immigrant kind of without having a status. Like I wasn't a political refugee. I wasn't a tourist anymore. So I was kind of like nobody for a bit, right? But he says, you need to have your passport valid, your Polish passport. Not the Polish passport hasn't been valid for over 2 years now. So I contacted my friend Bob again, and I said to him, and he says, well, we're going to write a letter to the Polish authorities, and going to ask for extension. And so he kind of helped me form this letter and said, that I'm young and I was overwhelmed with the country, and I met the guy and I just didn't know what to do, but I'm going to do this officially, and I'm going back to Poland, and I need my passport valid, and I'm going to make this all official. So that's what we did. So they gave me extension for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where kind of starts getting a little bit anxious, because 3 months went by, papers were shifted around, nothing happened.
Oh.
So the guy from the office, immigration officer, says, you have to get this passport valid. And I said, well, how many times can I ask for it? So he says, well, I'll do what I can. So Bob said, member of parliament help us once, let's try again. So now I'm in a different district, so I have a different person, and we wrote a letter to Polish officials again, said that I couldn't get enough money for the ticket, but I do have a ticket now, and I need another couple weeks. So they give me 1 month. So this is when they give me one month. We contacted the member of parliament, and that was October of 1983.
Okay, so this is a few years later.
Yeah, in October, couple days before my birthday, I got the landed immigrant status.
Oh my God! It's like the early birthday gift you needed and wanted.
Yeah, so that was during the whole process. That was the probably most anxious time because um, I kind of settled in here already,
Yeah.
like I really liked it Chris's parents, and I had lots of friends in here, and I started kind of working on my own career here. So I think the next step, if I didn't have this, I would have to leave Canada and go somewhere else, immigrate somewhere else. So, but
Where do you
obviously,
think you would have immigrated if you couldn't stay in Canada? Have you ever thought about that? Like, where would you have
well,
gone?
I don't remember other than we thought about Australia, New Zealand,
Okay.
it's places like, thank God I didn't go there. I'm so scared of snakes and spiders that I don't think I don't think I would have liked that.
Yeah. I've heard they got some pretty big spiders over there. So,
Oh, snakes even bigger, and
yeah.
that's my phobia. So yeah, so after that, um, I one of the earlier option was to marry Chris, and
Right.
he was because once I became his wife, I automatically became landed immigrant. But as independent as kind of free spirit as I was, I was going to do this on my own. So
Right.
I said to Chris, not that I don't love you, but I need to do this on my own. So
Mm.
after that, we started planning our wedding, and we got married about 8 months later.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's
Yes.
insane. So, like, it all just happened within the span of 2 years, but the way you're telling it makes it sound like it happened over a long period of time.
Yeah.
It was really only 2 years in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things, but probably during that time, it may have felt like it was taking forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but it wasn't a focus of my life.
Okay.
It was just this problem I had.
Yeah.
Just a slight problem with being undocumented, which I honestly I don't know if I ever really realized what that could have meant, right?
Ignorance is bliss, right?
So I was pretty happy about all that, and then after that, never looked back.
Wow.
I My mom wasn't very. We got married in 1984,
Okay.
and my parents came for the wedding.
Okay.
Um, my, my dad came for the wedding. My mother kind of couldn't see the idea that I was marrying, so she was coming to take her daughter home because
Oh.
there was no Skyping, no, so the phone calls were very infrequent because it was super expensive.
Right.
So she couldn't just, my dad was here before, so he kind of imagined somewhat, that I could make it, right? And, but she just couldn't fathom this, me being somewhere else. But when she got in here, they got in here about a week before the wedding, and for her to see, and that my life, like I have a life here, that
Yeah.
I organized my wedding, and I have everything, so she kind of settled. My,
Right.
yeah, that was probably the first time my dad kind of said, like, you did good. You,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah. So really, it was your dad the whole time that you were in Canada, he was more okay with it than your mom, presumably.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're right. You're
Oh,
absolutely.
but then once your mom came for the wedding, she could kind of see where you were coming from, and then it's like she got used to the idea, or what happened?
Yeah, I would say she got kind of used to the idea. She didn't like it.
Okay.
She wanted her daughter closer, but we you know things happens for a reason.
Right.
Um, I grew up in a society where parents were our parents, not friends.
Yeah.
The relationship between parents and kids were not the way they are right now. So,
Right.
um, but um, Chris's parents were, so Poland is much more, even now, much more traditional.
Okay.
You know, there's still a lot of traditions being kept from years and years and years. Since 2004, since Poland joined the European Union, things just changed immensely. It's just like not the same country I know.
Right.
It's like I love going now. I used to just go there because visit my family and all that. Now I go there because I love it.
Do you
I
go
went
often
for a
to
month,
Poland?
pretty much every year.
Okay. All right.
I did before, like even with the kids, and originally was, my dad passed away very early in before we started having kids, so he never met his grandkids.
Oh, okay.
And probably that was the one emotional struggle I kind of had, because by then I did not have my citizenship yet.
Right. Okay.
And I didn't have I didn't have any passports, or maybe I did have it. Now I cannot remember. But I did have maybe I didn't look into this until this arise. So my dad got sick with cancer, and I was thinking about going, and then somebody said, "Well, you shouldn't be going because although you don't have a Polish passport, when you go to Poland, you're still Polish."
Right. Okay.
Because you have you still have a Polish citizenship. So I find out that I can denounce my Polish citizenship, and then I have only Canadian. So I don't, because here you're allowed to have a dual citizenship. Where so I kind of looked into this, and I thought, all the troubles there were, because what I mentioned to you that they were checking with the officials were checking with my parents when I didn't come back after 3 months. Well, after a year, when my passport expired, they actually got called into the police station, and they wanted explanation why I'm not back, and
Oh
so
my
I
God.
was. Yeah, so I was a little bit worried that they're gonna take some actions against my parents, but my dad kind of said, like, she's growing up, so you gotta go after her, find her if you want. So they kind of let it go. But then I thought, well, I don't want to be one of the people to be made example of. So at that, like, I don't know if that still exists the way we read it, but having a Polish citizen, I transferred this to my children.
Okay.
And we kind of, like, at that time I didn't have children, but I kind of thought, well, if I have a son and we go to Poland for whatever reason, for one reason or another, and he gets drafted to army, and that's just not right. So I kind of thought, it's just the papers.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, I don't need the paper saying I'm Polish no matter what. So I went through the proceedings and denounced my Polish citizenship, but that was not until after my dad passed away. So I kind of regretted that I didn't look into this shortly after. That was kind of my immaturity at that time, that I would want to go see family, at some point, and just kind of didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So
well, you were thinking about, it sounds like you were thinking about other factors, but not necessarily seeing everything, if that makes sense. Like, is that what it sounds like?
It does make sense. As I said, it's kind of, you often kind of, you try to learn on somebody else's mistakes. That was always that was always my kind of like, so I'm very much, I like to hear stories, and and then take something out of that. So I couldn't see myself going to Poland because it was such a poor country. What the hell, like, I would prefer to pay the money for my family to come here and for them to see something, right? Mm-hmm. So, and my dad was a picture of health.
Yeah.
He was the one who exercised and versus my mom, who she was heavy, and then my dad got sick. So like, who knew, right?
Right.
so it was a little bit of a struggle emotionally because I couldn't be there, for him. But again, he was my father, and somewhere down the road, put him somewhere in a little box in my mind, and he's got a spot there. So,
Right.
and after that, mom came again in '88 after my son was born,
Okay.
and she stayed with us for almost a year. And then I started going to Poland. We went to Poland first time with Thomas when he was a year and a half old.
Aw.
Nightmare.
Oh.
Poland was still very poor country at that time. No big changes. It was hard to find food. Milk was unpasteurized. Which I didn't know about it. So he was having stomach problems, and he never changed his time. So we were there for 3 weeks, exhausted. We
Right.
went for Christmas, and after that, I said to Chris, "I'm not going back there until the kids are old enough." So I didn't go back for probably about 2-3 years. In the meantime, I had a daughter, and mom came again for a year, and after Sarah was born, and then I went every summer for a month at least, and then sometimes like just if there was some occasion or something, weddings or something, so was going. My mom passed away in 2001,
Mm.
so since then was again like it's costly to go there.
Right. Yeah.
Even from Toronto was costly. From here, it's costly, and it's a quite an ordeal.
Yeah.
So now having a little bit better financially, standing much better financially, um, we usually try to go just directly from here to one of the European countries, and we stay there.
Right. Okay.
Climatize ourselves. So we went, like one time we went to Holland, to Amsterdam. One time we went to Reykjavik in Iceland, and
Mm-hmm.
Frankfurt in Germany, and we stayed there for a couple days. Just kind of it's easier on the body. I'm kind of getting too old for this milk runs, but again, since the European Union, things have changed so much there because the borders are open
Right.
in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and so they can move around anywhere they like between the countries. So like right now, that place it's beautiful. It's so the food is amazing.
Yeah.
The history is unbelievable and so rich, and a lot of nice places to stay, and it's still fairly inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Comparison. So you know, one more thing I might add that like never had any regrets of this coming. As a matter of fact, I I think that I made my immediate family lives easier by being here,
Yeah.
um, through being able to help financially.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there was a two big incidents where without my help, I don't know how this would have ended up. But after my dad died, um, my mom got kicked out by the government from the place they live because she wasn't employed by government.
Oh
And
wow.
she was not in a position to buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have had to go and live with one of her sons, and that just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she would have had to, but if well, she probably would have come live with me if I never immigrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Chris was always very understanding, and never stopped me from helping the family in Poland. So we sent quite a bit of money, and we helped her buy a place. So
Mm-hmm.
she had her own place where she lived until she passed away, and it was in the same city my younger brother lived. So she had my younger brother around, and so it was good.
Right.
And the second time, it was even it was important too. Is my mom had a stroke, and she was unconscious for a couple of weeks. And
Okay.
after she regained conscious, they said that the rehabilitation is necessary like pretty much immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that costs money in
Right.
Poland.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you don't give money in a white envelope to somebody, she gets pushed and pushed and pushed. So
Oh,
she got,
yeah.
yeah, so 3,000 US dollars, which is
Wow.
like, which is a lot of money for
Yeah.
us, but it's like a tons money there. Got my mother into rehab the next day.
Wow.
So again, stuff like that. So I actually had a time to organize because I had small kids then. Had
Yeah.
a time to organize myself, and I went to visit with her and stay with her for a month.
Mm.
And wow, she was in that rehab hospital to kind of say goodbye to her, because it's almost like she waited for me, because a couple of weeks after I left, she passed away. So
Wow. Wow. And you just kind of hear this. I mean, I've heard from other stories too. This is something that immigrants do often when they come to Canada, is sending money to help family back home. And that just seems to be an unspoken given. It makes
yeah,
sense. You help family when you go to another place that might be a little bit more economically prosperous. It makes sense. We have to help our family. We can't forget our roots, basically.
yeah.
And I find
Well,
a lot of immigrants don't forget their roots, and that's really admirable.
yeah, I don't think anybody does. I think that, and I think anybody who comes from different country, some comes because they have to, some comes because they want to. So, but the end result is the same. You live in a different country, right?
Right.
Talking about just about the money, like after we got married, in Poland, while I was living there, there was nothing you bought on credit.
Okay.
You had to save money to buy.
Okay.
So
See.
my dad saved probably 20 years before he bought first car.
Okay. It's a little
Never
bit
had a
different
car.
than what we have.
Yeah. So after Chris and I got married, his
Mhm.
grandparents gave us some old furniture, and then so it was good. And then we went to Lyon, and they had this no payment for 2 years. I thought, like, I can take the furniture home, sit on it, use it, and don't pay it nothing for 2 years. It was like heaven.
Right. Yeah.
So Chris made sure that we saved the money in the meantime, but
Yeah.
it was, you had already stuff you needed, and then you were putting the money away. So kind of totally the opposite way. So I loved it. This credit, with time, credits in Poland became super, super, super high interest.
Yeah.
So like we had interest, Canadians will complain about 12% interest. In Poland was 33, 36%.
Oh my gosh.
I know, like people just don't realize how
That's
this
crazy.
works, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's astounding. Honestly, I didn't realize that your interest rates could be so high.
yeah, even now they a lot higher than they are here. They they're not globally that low as what
Yeah.
we have.
Wow.
And I have a son-in-law who immigrated from a different country, and so I understand him perfectly well,
Yeah.
where he's coming from as far as his family. And um, you know, my daughter lived with knowing this other family. Well, she knew that she went with me more than my son, and so she knew the family quite well.
Yeah.
And and she knew that we were helping them and all this. So she understands the need for him to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way it kind of does, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Do you think like majority of other Canadians really understand the struggles that immigrants do go through, or take the time to understand it, or do you find that It's just, we
Well,
just
you
don't
know,
really
Canada is Canada. It's created by immigrants, right?
know. Right. Okay.
Somebody came sooner or later, you know, and so, but people forget that. So if you have a 2, 3 generations of people living here, um, then I think that's probably they kind of feel themselves that they just so much more Canadians than the people who immigrating right now.
Right.
But I kind of feel, you know, as an immigrant myself, when I came in here, there was no super drastic cultural changes for me. I'm, you know, Canada has all the religions you possibly can think of it. Um, I'm Catholic, raised born Catholic, although
Right.
I don't practice.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it wasn't a huge change. Like, and my religion doesn't. It's different than the Islamic religion, and you know that I don't have to cover my face. Or you know that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So it's you know they kind of say that the one apple spoils the bunch, right? So
Yeah.
in a bunch of immigrants, majority of immigrants, I believe they embrace this country.
Yeah.
The country allows them to be who they are from from previous life, from life in their own country. You know, like they have the restaurants, they have stores, they have their own places to worship and all this. So um, I think that lots of people kind of um, look at this 1 or 2 bad apples who cannot make themselves um, overcome the struggle of living here and that don't give a chance
Right.
to to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think more immigrants want to be independently, kind of have almost like a little Poland, right?
Right. Yeah. Like little cliques are created is kind of what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. See, when I came in here, I embraced this. I kind of felt that priority was my English. It's
Yeah.
the official language of that. So I don't understand how can somebody live in here for 10 years and not speak English?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Whether you came here um, willingly or you were forced because of the situation there. So this country opened the arms, took you in. So least you can do is just give to this country something what need, to mean being self-sufficient.
Right. Yeah.
Don't expect don't expect everybody to hop around and do stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like most of my friends who are immigrants, they're making the best out of their life. As I said, I've never collected any of the social things like social money
Yeah.
from a government.
Right.
Like, so, and I know that there's lots of people who do, and it's not only immigrants. Just be honest about that.
Yeah.
There's other people as well. But I think the first indication of somebody being from different countries is the language. So
Right.
this is why I made my priority to learn English.
Yeah. And you actually told me you told me a really interesting story, how you learned English, right? You learned it by talking to other people at the bar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
when I was living with this friend, she thought that it would be good for me to go and do English as a second language.
Yeah.
So it was on Thursday nights in a local high school, and so she gave me a car, and so I went there, and after supper, it was evening classes, and I went for the first one. I thought I spoke so much better English than anybody there. I don't need this class. I went back and I told her, and she says, "Well, you always get something out of that." So I'm kind of like, So I decided I really didn't want to go and waste my 2 hours or better in the classroom. So instead, I thought I'm gonna go to the bar this club for a drink and just see.
Yeah.
So one, so this is what 6 weeks, 6 weeks of classes. I was in a in
Yeah.
a club instead of being and I bet you I learned more that I learned I would have learned in classes.
Well, because you're applying it in real life situations. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And you said people were always very willing to like they didn't just walk up came up to me, start talking, realizing I don't speak good English, that they would just walk away. I found that if anything, it drew them to me, and they want, where are you from and what are you doing, and so I felt that was a very, very good um, way. And I, like said before, I felt that if people understand language, like if your native language is English and somebody's trying to speak to you in a broken English, as long as there's some words you get it, you understand, you can probably figure out what I want from you.
Of
So
course.
I figure that I did have a base grammar from school,
Yeah.
and I lacked words. So I was just learning words and just putting the words together, and all this. So it was a kind of process. So this English couple, Jack and Dorothy, I very quickly, after they hired me, we became super, super close, and I moved in with them, and I lived with them until Chris and I got married. And they owned this restaurant. So at first, I worked at the kitchen because I didn't know enough English. And Jack was the one who used to. He is a fantastic joke teller, and I always said if I can understand, because they used to watch quite a bit of TV, and they watched sitcoms, and they were laughing, and I didn't know what they're laughing at. So I always said, if I understood the jokes, then I would consider myself that I can speak English. So to boost my unknown to me, to boost my confidence, he used to say, Sylvia, I'm going to tell you a joke. But before he did, he would say, do you know what this means? Do you know what this means? And me living with them, he kind of knew the extent of my vocabulary. And then when I knew the words, he would have told me a joke. So sometimes, like at the beginning, sometimes I got it, sometimes I didn't.
Yeah.
But I remember when I got this first time the joke, and it was like, wow. And then start watching. I cannot remember which comedy we were watching, but watching something so I understood. And then until then, I was translating from Polish to English. So then I kind of thought, if I start thinking in English, that would be so much easier. And then I started dreaming in English.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that, because that's something like, for me, I speak Spanish as a second language. And I remember the first time I had a dream in Spanish, and I thought, I dreamed in Spanish, and my Spanish was actually, it was like fluent, and I couldn't believe it. And I wondered, if this is happening to me, I wonder if that happens to other people who learn English or any other language for that matter. Do you just dream in that language?
Well, once you start thinking in English and you don't translate, then you're starting to dream. So with me, because I go to Poland often, so I find that when I get to Poland, I need a day to change how I speak, because we use different parts of our mouth to speak. So my Polish is very broken, but between couple days, I pick up very quickly. And when I'm there, I dream in Polish because I think in Polish. But then I'm back is the same. So now my English is worse, a much stronger accent, and then it takes me a couple of days to get back into it, right? So
but then you're back dreaming in English.
Yeah, I'm back in dreaming in English. I read in English. Most of my books I do read in English. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I love hearing that. That's so funny. Um, yeah. And so, just kind of wrapping up here, what do you think? So you said you had no regrets coming to Canada at all.
You know.
What do you think Canada offers to its people or to immigrants in general? What is so great about Canada?
Well, in my opinion, is if you embrace the life here, the life embrace you.
Yeah.
So I always kind of felt that home is where I am. So
Okay.
I make my life. So whether I choose to live in Canada, in Portugal, or whatever, it's it's I feel that I need to embrace the life around me, and then I don't feel so isolated. I don't feel um, like it's not a place for me to be.
Right.
And so I think Canada offers all that. If
Mm-hmm.
you, it's a beautiful country. I wish there was a one part which was warm in the summer, in the winter time. So,
Yeah.
but until now we had Mexico not too far away.
Right. Yeah.
So, right. So it's a little bit that with COVID a little bit harder, but it's the Rockies are beautiful. Ontario is a beautiful country too. Um, I we have visited quite a few places in Ontario. Ontario is huge, but we travel pretty much through our life, camping or visiting or whatever, pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now we pretty far west, so we done the Vancouver Islands and all these places. So what's left is the East Coast, but I think that's gonna wait until my husband retires, and then we can just take a couple months to go there, because it's a far away, and I'm getting I'm through COVID and through retirement, I'm getting kind of like much more slower with touristy with leisure.
But you still have that adventurous spirit. And one
I
thing I
do.
like about, well, one thing that we can be thankful about with COVID is it kind of forces us to explore our own country
Yes.
in depth. Canada is such a huge country. It could really be separated into two countries, really, and more, in my
And
opinion.
yeah. Yeah.
But just each province itself has its own flavor, its own little culture. I don't know if you think the same way in that regard, but I just feel like Canada, there's just so much diversity, and it's really, this is the opportune time to explore that, really.
See, I totally agree. I like new stuff,
Yeah.
and I find that Canada is new.
Yeah.
Like it makes me chuckle when we live in a little town called Caledonia in Ontario, and
Mm-hmm.
they had this a historical building from 1860, which was like a place where travelers stop with the horses, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's chuckle to me because I went to church which was built in 1260.
Mm-hmm.
1260. My house probably was built like was in the 12 11th centuries, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like when I took Chris to Poland first time, he wanted to take all the doorknobs of the doors and bring them here to sell them as antiques.
Oh,
So
that's yeah.
I'm so used to this older stuff. So I actually embrace more the modern stuff. We always bought a new house because I don't find old houses charming. I find them,
Interesting. Wow, that's
yeah.
really
I'm
interesting.
I don't you would not impress me with the car from 1950s. Even if it was we can, I just have no appreciation whatsoever for antiques, for for the older stuff. I house 10 years old is getting to be too old for my liking. There's always,
It's time to switch it
but
up.
I don't know whether this is where, because where I was born, or it's just I am like just my style, right? I'm not too sure. But yeah,
Right.
I love the wilderness in here. I love the forests everywhere. Like it's, and how people take care of how cities take care of the yard, the parks, the recreations.
Yeah.
All this,
It's
right?
very clean. Yeah.
Very clean. Yeah. But
Yeah.
now I I understand though why people love to go to Europe for holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Like Europe became, there's a countries which are super expensive, like Iceland,
Yeah.
but there's a country like Czech
Mm-hmm.
Republic or Poland or Hungary.
Yeah.
They are very inexpensive. They totally different atmosphere now. Like in Poland, back when I was growing up, you didn't speak to a clerk at the grocery store.
Right.
Nobody would talk to you. So
Yeah.
I yap to anybody. So I kind of liked the idea when I went to grocery store that, that I could say something and they would smile and they answer me. Now
Yeah.
in Poland they do. They, like, people will smile to you and they pass you and often will say hi, but before it wasn't. So this kind of, and I think that's kind of comes from traveling around
Right.
and seeing that, other people live differently and it's not that bad after all.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that Canada offers a lot. You just have to want to take it.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I found it so interesting and so endearing. I loved hearing about how you came to Canada twice. And yeah, just thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be here so bad. I needed to come back twice.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you,
Well, thank you for having me and listening to my story. And I hope somebody else is going to find this as interesting as you are.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you so much again. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, and thanks for watching. If you like this story and want to listen to more inspiring immigrant stories, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell.